Oops. I think we kind of got the themes switched, but oh well. We'll put the late nights with Lenin theme at the end.
Yeah, I'll play it at the end.
Why am I echoing? What am I? Okay. Am I echoing to myself? Okay, gone. So yeah, I guess on the day of the liberation of Auschwitz, they do the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And this year, like every year I police all the brands to make sure that you don't get the CEO of BASF saying, "We remember." And I was like, of course you remember. You were there doing it. So no brands this year dared to tweet on Holocaust Remembrance Day, except for the royal family of the UK. And we're like, well, not everyone was against Hitler. So hopefully we can prevent them from tweeting too. But since, actually, it's kind of funny. I was just reading this part in Victor Vasily Grossman's article about the hell that is Treblinka. And apparently some of the people, right before they were sent to the gas chambers, they told the Nazis, "Comrade Stalin will avenge us." So, Budzdarov Tavarish Stalin. Yeah, I'm serious. Anyways, let's change gears. Hi, Gani, and evening. Okay, so let's change gears to what are we talking about? Ukraine. So it's weird. CNN seems to insist that Russia wants to invade Ukraine. Everyone in the government of Russia is like, no, we don't. And then everyone in Ukraine. Okay, let's talk about Mouse. Mouse is like a liberal light graphic novel that won't offend liberal sensitivities. So basically, what they do is they have like different animals be different. What is it? Like they have different animals be different things like basically they got Jewish mice, French frogs, Polish pigs, English fish, German cats, and US dogs, because the US is the true enemy of the Nazis, and literally 0 Russians, even though 27 million Soviet citizens were killed. And it's good because it lets liberals pretend the Holocaust was all about hating Jews, and none of it was about can you keep up that sorry like Janet, can you bring back Nadia's comment? Okay. And none of it was about capitalism, and so that's why I don't care, actually. Okay. They should not, but I do understand. No, I don't think they banned it or whatever they did. We still have to kind of remember that it is basically a liberal's way of not blaming capitalism and fascism in themselves. And we all know that if they were liberal in the US in the 1930s, they would have totally been calling Hitler a new hope. So yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to get all on it, but it's kind of like Schindler's List. Oscar Schindler was the worst person on earth. He was a traitor to his country, which is Bohemia or the Czech Republic. He was decked out on heroin or some other drug all the time, and the person who actually saved all the people was an assistant of his, and yeah. And then Hollywood. Oh, another. I hate this other movie, Valkyrie. because Klaus von Stauffenberg's actual problem with Hitler was that he was being uncouth about his genocide, not about, like, he was like, oh, I didn't like the way he invaded Poland. It was like uncouth genocide as opposed to couth genocide. And so, yeah. Hollywood always has made more movies rehabilitating horrible people, horrible Nazis like Klaus von Stauffenberg and Oskar Schindler than they actually have done movies about actual heroes. Anyways, so before, okay, I'm gonna hide the comments so that I don't get distracted again. But before, so basically, let's just show the Lloyd Austin clip.
Any Russian attack or further incursion into Ukraine would not only ignite conflict, it would also violate the bedrock principles of national sovereignty, territorial integrity, and self-determination. So this is something that we're taking very seriously, both as a strong partner of Ukraine and as one of 30 members of NATO, who are unified in opposition to Russia's attempts to undermine those core values and threaten peace and security in Europe. So let me be clear on where things stand today. First, conflict is not inevitable. There is still time and space for diplomacy. The United States, in lockstep with our allies and partners, has offered Russia a path away from crisis and toward greater security. And the Department of Defense will continue to support those diplomatic efforts.
Yes.
Second, the United States remains committed to helping Ukraine defend itself through security assistance material.
Weapons.
And since 2014, we've committed more than $2.7 billion in security assistance to Ukraine.
Oh, Lord.
And that includes more security assistance to Ukraine in the past year, $650 million, than at any previous time.
He's really happy
and
because
so
he was
in December,
on the board of
President Biden authorized
a very profitable
$200 million in assistance, which included additional javelins and other anti-armor weapons, grenade launchers, large quantities of artillery and small arms ammunition, and other equipment. Those deliveries are ongoing. Indeed, another shipment just arrived today. And third, the United States will stand shoulder to shoulder with our NATO allies. That includes reinforcing security on NATO's eastern flank. And as you know, we placed thousands of U.S. troops on prepare to deploy orders earlier this week.
Wait.
If NATO activates its response forces, these troops will be ready to go.
Like, that's not very sovereign. And yeah, and of course he was on the board. He's like the biggest conflict of interest. So of course he wants war. And today CNN was trying to interview Zelensky, and Zelensky is like, I'm the bloody president of Ukraine, and I know better who's invading and who's not. Like, he also told Biden to SDFU. So apparently they had a big argument. Historically does have a Facebook page, but we don't use it that often. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, I don't know what to say other than, well, it's like nobody besides the defense contractor. Oh, they're NATO allies. So what happened was that the Croatian president said, over not my dead body are we sending troops to Ukraine. The Croatian prime minister contradicted him. And then the Croatian president accused the Croatian prime minister of being a Ukrainian agent. So, and Germany stopped Estonia from sending arms to Ukraine, and Germany's, like, the NATO allies are not in it. Germany is definitely not wanting to do this. apparently Ukraine also doesn't want to do this. And Croatia really is like, nah. Hungary and Italy are also pretty, so it seems like even the NATO allies don't want this and want the US to kind of go away. So nobody besides the US is pressing for this war. And they're trying to create like a proxy war, but you can't create a proxy war when the proxies won't fight. So I don't know what they're going to do next besides, I don't know. Anyways, it's time to, let's look at our favorite clown from the Young Turks, who's bizarrely named after a genocidal group. Okay, so wait, Janet, should we watch this first or the previous one first? Let's watch this one first. I can't hear though.
Given the size of the massive violation of international law in this case, if they cross the border and actually try to take the country, obviously you freeze all Russian assets all across the world. I don't care.
Pause. Obviously, America freezes all Russian assets all across the board. Why? And who gave America that authority? This is insane. He sounds like he sounds like, he doesn't even sound like, he sounds crazier than a neocon. Okay, let's continue.
Who it is, every oligarch, anything related to Putin, sees. Now, again, there'll be some idiots on, not idiots, to be fair, they're grifters. And I don't know who they're working for, some portion of them, but they'll pretend that.
Well, we do know who you work for because you got like a lot of money from like that billionaire. And on top of it, do you guys remember in 2016 or 2017 when they raised $2 million to have on the ground reporters doing actual reporting and then they hired 0? Yeah, so he's the grifter. But let's continue.
People pretending to be on the left, okay, and maybe a couple of people who actually are on the left and are, don't understand world politics at all, who are like, oh my God, freezing the assets of oligarchs. That's so warlike. Him taking Ukraine with 175,000 troops is not warlike, but freezing their assets is?
He didn't, okay, Putin didn't take Ukraine. There are Russian troops inside of Russia. But on top of it, I mean, okay, this is the more, the thing is, does Ukraine really have a right to exist? I mean, like, for example, we know a lot of Eastern Europe was carved up by UK, US, and France right after the war. So, I mean, it's completely a different situation when you look at the history. But whatever, let's continue.
Are you insane? Right? So, and what about the people of Ukraine? Do they count? Are they human beings? As a progressive, do you care about them? Do you care about their freedom? Do you care about their rights? Right?
Pause.
So now once you get
pause, their freedom and rights. So yes, when the right sector and Azov battalion and all these fascist gangs like basically control half the country, I don't see too much freedom being happening there, but go on. Oh yeah, people are getting arrested left and right for like basically everything they accuse Russia of doing, they're actually doing in Ukraine, and c'est la vie.
That's when it gets impossible,
right?
Because what are you going to do? Start a war with Russia? That's beyond a disaster. On the other hand, what are you going to do? Let them take one country after another, after another, after another? If you don't stop them in Ukraine.
Like I said, most of these countries didn't exist. They were part of Tsarist Russia. So, I mean, just because the US and the UK wants them to be a country doesn't mean they are. Go ahead.
And I don't, again, other than freezing assets, I don't know how you stop them.
Right.
But if you don't stop them there, then this
Why
world
do
is in a
you
lot of
have to
trouble.
stop
Because I
them?
guarantee.
Why can't people, like, honestly, like, people in Ukraine know how to stop things themselves for the most part. People in other countries know how to stop it because they're like grown-ups. And it's like weird that he comes from the point of view of the world police. Okay.
To you, very soon after, China takes Taiwan.
China
Because it's
takes
open
Taiwan.
season.
Yeah,
Jesus, mother of Christ. Okay. So Taiwan, imagine if like all the neocons, let's say that there's like a hypothetical, like, I don't know, imagine a Bernie victory and then all the neocons flee to Hawaii. But let's say that we don't have an air force and then the US Air Force like blocks your Navy from from like reclaiming Hawaii. That's what Taiwan is. They had the longest period of white terror, but it is the KMT. So even US does not recognize Taiwan as a country. So what is this nonsense about China taking Taiwan? I mean, even the KMT always talks about one China. So nobody besides the DPP thinks Taiwan is an independent country even inside of Taiwan. So yeah. Okay, let's continue with Jenk. What did he say?
That one is actually done.
Okay.
Move to the other ones.
Oh my God. The other one, this one's really funny because in 2014, like apparently Jenk, I don't know what he was doing, but apparently he doesn't know that there he was like, are there really Nazis in Ukraine? I'm sorry. This was from 2014.
That it's an orgy of nationalists, extremists, and anti-Semites.
Yes.
Now, wow, the Russians all of a
100%
sudden
true.
looking to fight back against anti-Semites. So what's happening there? No. What they're trying to do is remind the Crimeans that during the Soviet Union, when we had
Pause.
World War II, Crimea was
Yeah, like that was completely accurate. An orgy of nationalists, fascists, and anti-Semites is like the best way. It's like a very truthful way of describing the U.S.-backed people. And also, like, he does not like. Does he not remember who liberated Berlin? So they do care about anti-Semitism, even though is Jenk anti? I don't know. Anyways, I wonder if it has to do with the fact that I don't know. But yeah, this is like so ill-informed. Yeah. Anyways, I just kind of wanted
heroic in fighting against the Nazis, right, who were anti-Semitic and fascist and all that stuff. And they're basically saying, remember, you're Russians. Okay?
No, they're not
And
saying
we're proud
that.
that you're Russians. And remember how we stuck together during World War II. Okay, it's a brilliant piece of propaganda, right? Now, speaking of brilliant, let's go to the referendum itself.
Okay, this is good. Boring.
They have two questions.
Listen, yeah. So no, TIT did not fall off the bed. They basically are mildly left in regards to domestic issues. Like they're like, oh, cops shouldn't be able to shoot people on video. And that's about it. Internationally, they've been as neocon as neocon is like, yeah, like Jenk cheered Gaddafi getting killed. There was, it was so gross. It was like, down goes Gaddafi. It was like, yuck, you disgusting person. Yeah, so that's yeah, let's see. I think I forgot something, but I probably did not.
There was a second video underneath that one. I didn't know if you wanted that one too, or
Nah.
it was just the boring stuff. So
Okay.
we'll do. I'll play the video, and we'll just do Nadezhda reminiscences after.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna start the
So
video.
see you guys in about an hour and 20 minutes. Welcome to another night of Late Nights with Lenin. When we first started this piece, we had our agriculturist, our biologist, Yuri on. And I guess hopefully we'll be able to end the piece with Yuri again. How are you doing, Yuri?
I'm doing great. Toiling under the wheel of capitalism, trying to get by.
Yeah. How is the That's a stupid question. I was gonna ask you how the wheel is, but that's like a really stupid question.
Oh, the wheel?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
It's still the wheel.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of war propaganda going on with like Ukraine, as in like the US wants a war so badly. Like everyone in the media seems to. There has to be a German word for war boner that is very long.
Yeah, like something like the sexual lust for violence or something, but in German.
Yeah, I bet you there's like Stormart, whatever.
Stormabteilung.
Yeah, there's a lot of big words in German. So whatever. So I bet you there's a German word meaning war boner.
Probably.
Yeah. That's really long that we need right now to know, because that's okay. So Russia is not invading Ukraine, and Ukraine is also saying Russia is not invading. So the US is like talking, Joe Biden is talking insane crap like about sacking Kiev or whatever.
Yeah, they want to go Libya.
Libya?
Yeah, they want to go Libya or something. I don't know. Like what's going to happen? Like the Germans don't want to do it. Like part of NATO doesn't want to do it. Like
no one wants to do it.
Except for the United States.
Yeah. So they'll just have to, I don't know what's going on. So I did realize that Ukraine apparently has been getting wooed by the Belt and Road Initiative. Anyway, so Lord.
They're
by the way,
waiting for a social system, some big trains to come along and make them an honest country.
Yeah, and apparently there was a coup in Burkina Faso, but I don't know anything about it other than the fact that there's a coup. I don't know who's behind it or why, or if it's like a good coup or a bad coup, or like what's going on. So, but next week, or by the time this show airs on Saturday, I'll actually know about the coup, and I'll do my best to know more about the coup in Burkina Faso. Did I miss anything else? Oh.
What?
Do you want to gossip?
Sure.
Okay. I didn't watch, I only watched 30 seconds of the alleged Sam Cedar Jackson Hinkle debate. And Sam said he doesn't care if the State Department gets more funding, which is kind of annoying because he does not seem to understand that the State Department does a lot of bad stuff, like trying to assassinate Evo Morales.
Yeah, they love to assassinate third world socialist leaders. Yeah, Sam Cedar is like, he's like a, I don't know, like a relatively well-informed liberal. Like he knows like people who ran in elections and like a decent amount of like history and stuff, but his analysis is just, he's just such a liberal. He doesn't like, you know, you can't just say death squads to him and then like that, like, you know, he's going to talk about like, you know, the U.S. being kind of the good guys, and he's going to just nuance cook like war and violence.
Okay, Sam, I would love to invite you to be on Late Nights with Lenin. You know my email, so email me if you want to learn how to do dialectical materialism.
I think that would be good for him.
It would be good for everyone on that show. Emma, too. I know I kind of got mad at you for citing that Nazi Werner Herzog, but having dialect, if you learn some good Lenin, you won't be citing Nazis accidentally again. So, and Sam knows my email, so just get it from him. Okay.
Okay. So we're doing chapter 8, I guess?
Yeah. So the thing is that people need to understand what, okay. Well, people just don't understand food production. So they're going like, especially it'll be so easy to astroturf like a climate change protest where you're just like stopping the development of Africa. You know what I mean? Because they don't understand how food is made. And how like people in Africa need tractors and whatnot, and underdevelopment and the IMF, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, I forgot this one. So every Holocaust Remembrance Day, I kind of scroll through Twitter to make sure no one inappropriate is tweeting about Holocaust Memorial Day. Like 2 years ago, I'll show you the screenshot where the head of BASF
BASF.
It's like, we remember. And I was like, yes, I know you remember because you were there doing it. So today I did this, and like the worst I found was NATO and the royal family. So the royal family, I did not everyone in the royal family was opposed to Hitler. Here is one member. And with NATO, I basically said, come on, don't be a joke. So in fact, a lot of all the woke companies like have not tweeted a single thing today. And that's the way it should be, right?
Yes.
You don't want Adidas
their
like
subsidiaries probably all were involved.
Exactly. Like I don't want Adidas or Hugo Boss tweeting about how they remember. Because yeah, we know you remember very well. You have all those profits. But back to the thing. Yeah. So you were gonna say something about agricultural development in Africa?
Oh yeah. Basically, the main lie that is used to justify only developing commodity crop production in third world economies is the comparative advantage shit. But like that ignores like the necessity of a country to be able to produce its own food stocks for like geopolitical security reasons,
or just for eating reasons. I mean.
Well, that's what geopolitical security means. It means that the U.S. can't stop selling you food, and then everybody starves because you're only growing coffee or chocolate or some shit that Westerners eat.
Yep. Like the British engineered the famine in India. Okay. Because we were like converted into a tea plantation or whatever.
And then they were just giving all of the food to the British soldiers instead of the people. Like they just...
No. Winston Churchill did the famine on purpose.
Grow cotton in their food land. Yeah. Oh, like not just like I'll just put this food elsewhere, but like let's kill these people.
Yeah.
Damn, that's even worse than I thought it was. I thought it was.
Yeah, he said the Indians are a beastly people. They have a beastly religion. They brought this plague upon themselves for breeding like rabbits. It was done on, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I bet you that's not, and I mean, Nazis also had their plan Ost. One part of it was like, as you can see it during the siege of Leningrad, like they thought like, hey, if we starve everyone in the city, then we can just like take over the city and we don't have to rebuild. And that was what they were experimenting with in the siege of Leningrad.
Yeah, and that's what the U.S. is doing right now, but like with all the sanctions regimes where they like They do that. They underdevelop the agricultural parts of an economy, and then when they have to, sell cash export crops to meet their like IMF, World Bank, like whatever, instrument of imperialism loans, like then they can't grow their own food anymore, and that's, I don't know. It's one of those things that I learned in like high school economics. That's like deeply insidious, but it seems like it makes sense until you like really break it down and like analyze like the conditions on the ground. But they're just like efficiency, efficiency for the people getting the cash crops sold to them for a non-increasing price because it's imperialism.
Yeah. So well. Exactly. So this kind of explains how I like it because Lenin does one for, like the way how agriculture and capitalism develops in Germany, but there's also future pieces where he talks about more of a third world condition like Russia. And so, yeah, with this, let us begin.
One of the things that I thought would be really cool would be to like go through imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, and just make a graph of every single chart that he has.
Yes. I've been doing that for at least like I've been going on and off. So I'll share you what I've done so far.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Because like some people can't just look at a table and be like, bloop, like in your mind.
Mm-hmm. I've been wanting to do an animated version. So after we hang up, I'll collaborate with you on WhatsApp on this one.
Okay. Chapter 8. General Statistics of German Agriculture from 1882 and 1895. The question of the medium farms. Having examined the detailed statistics of peasant farming, because peasant farming is the center of gravity for modern agricultural question. Let us now pass
Hold on.
to the
By peasant farming, he just means rural farming. And I know I hate the fact that English is so like not clear about the word peasant that allows anti-communists to abuse this. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. The center of gravity of the modern agrarian question. Let us now pass to the general statistics of German agriculture and verify the conclusions drawn from them by the critics. Below, in brief, are the principal returns of the censuses of 1882 and 1895.
Okay, so we're putting up a chart, but the main thing is that the latifundas, or the farms of 100 hectares or over, have grown their area by about 45%. And while there are also more micro farms, the tiny ones. And what you notice is that, but their land area is shrinking, the micro farms. And then what happens is that the middle farms are kind of shrinking, I think.
So this is why basically, it would be great to have these all as graphs.
Yeah, basically what's happening is that there's like a differentiation where the middle farms are going away, and some are actually none are becoming large farms, but most of them are just like they're like selling their land and then becoming micro farms. Okay, go on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 3 circumstances must be examined. Its connection with this picture of change interpreted differently by Marxists and by the critics. The increase in the number of the smallest farms, the increase in the latifundia, i.e. the farms of 1,000 hectares and over, in our table placed below in the row over 100 hectares, and lastly, the increase in the number of middle peasant farms, 5 to 20 hectares, which is the most striking.
But go ahead.
And the one giving rise to the most heated controversy. Did you want to jump in?
Okay, I missed. Yes. Yes, I missed the 5 to 20 because I was kind of looking at the top and bottom. Okay, he's right. Okay.
Like the big farms, like the combination industry farms or something like that.
Like the factory farms.
Yeah, the industrial corporate.
Yeah.
Okay. The increase in the number of the smallest farms indicates an enormous increase in poverty and proletarianization. For the overwhelming majority of the owners of less than 2 hectares cannot obtain a livelihood from agriculture alone, but must seek auxiliary employment, i.e., work for wages. Of course, there are exceptions. The cultivation of special crops, viticulture, market gardening, industrial crop cultivation, suburban farming generally, etc., render possible the existence of independent, at times not even small, farmers, even on 1.5 hectares. But out of a total of 3 million farms, these exceptions are quite insignificant. The fact that the mass of these small farmers, representing 3/5 of the total number, are wage laborers is strikingly proved by the German statistics concerning the principal occupations of the farmer in various categories. The following is a brief summary of those statistics.
Okay, so it seems like in small farms, non-independent, like there's a lot of auxiliary employment, like they're doing other stuff like non-independent labor, other occupations, and probably I bet you the owners of the super rich farm are not doing anything. But
you can see a dip in the percent of independent farmers with auxiliary occupations in the 5 to 20 and 20 to 100.
Oh, that's a huge dip. Yep.
Yeah, those are the people who can obviously like make their living, like you're saying, doing farming alone.
And the ones with like 20 to over like the 100 and over, they're like not farming either. They're just sitting down and having and hiring labor. They're literally not doing anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Or they could just be wage laborers working for,
No, not if you own a lot of funda. You don't have to do crap, right?
Okay. Yeah, you can do other things with your time and have your serfs, slaves, or whatever do it.
Well, yeah. Okay, gone.
We see thus that out of the total number of German farmers, only 45%, i.e. fewer than half, are independent with farming as their main occupation. And even of these independent farmers, 1/5 have auxiliary occupations. The principal independent, i.e. the principal occupation, all right, starting over, the principal occupation of 17.5% of farmers is trading, industry, market, gardening, and so forth. In these occupations, they are not independent, i.e. occupy the position of master and not hired workers. Almost 1/3 are hired workers, not independent, employed in various branches of agriculture and industry. The principal occupation of 6.4% of farmers is office employment in the military service, civil service, etc., the liberal professions, etc. Of the farmers with farms under 2 hectares, 1/2 are hired workers. The independent farmers among these 3,200,000 owners represent a minority, only 17.4% of the total. Of this number, 17%, 1/4, 26.1%, are engaged in auxiliary occupations. Oh, I think I read that already. I.e. hired workers not in their principal occupations, like the above-mentioned 50.3%, but in their sideline occupations. Even among the farmers owning from 2 to 5 hectares, only a little more than half, 546,000 out of 1,016,000, are independent farmers without auxiliary occupations. Scroll. We see from this how amazingly untrue the picture painted by Mr. Bulgakov when asserting erroneously, as we have shown, the total number of persons actually engaged in agriculture has grown. He explains this by the increase in the number of independent farmers, as we already know, farms, as we already know, mainly middle peasant farms at the expense of the big farms.
I actually like to, we should appropriate this. Like, we see how amazingly untrue this crap spit out by the Biden, but that's everything. Never mind. Like, I can't, amazingly untrue only works when once in a while it's untrue, but when it's everything, that insult, it doesn't.
Yeah, it would be in every sentence that you wrote. How amazingly untrue. Literally everything that Press Secretary Psaki has said is. You just run into the ground. You'd lose all meaning like in a day if you actually were honest with those people.
Okay, never mind. It only works. Yeah. Okay, fine. Go on.
Okay.
On the question as to.
Yes, the fact that the number of middle peasant farms has expanded most in proportion to the total number of farms from 17.6% to 18%, a rise of 0.4%, does not in the least prove that the increase in agricultural populations is due principally to the growth in the number of middle peasant farms. On the question as to which On the question as to which category has contributed most to the general increase in the number of farms, we have direct data that leave no room for two opinions. The total number of farms has risen by 282,000, of which the number of farms under 2 hectares has increased by 174,000. Consequently, the larger agricultural population, if and insofar as it is larger at all, is to be explained precisely by the increase in the number of non-independent farms, the bulk of farmers with farms under 2 hectares not being independent. The rise is greatest in the small atonement farms, which indicates the growing proletarianization. Even the increase by 35,000 in the number of farms of 2 to 5 hectares cannot be wholly attributed to the expanded number of independent farms, for of those farmers, only 546,000 of the total 1,016,000 are dependent.
Are independent,
no
there's a typo.
Subsidiary earnings.
Yeah, proletarization. Independent. Yeah. I mean, we're also seeing a second level of proletarization amongst former factory workers' children or whatever. But yeah, proletarization means they have nothing, like they'll soon lose their farms because they can't make ends meet. They can't make their mortgages and they'll have nothing but their labor to sell. So that's going to happen.
And they'll be fully
proletarized.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just saying that that's what is going to happen in proletarization is that they're going to lose that 2 to 5 hectare farm. After like they can't meet their mortgages, they're going to get foreclosed upon, and then they'll have nothing but their labor to sell. Okay.
And they'll move to the cities and become factory
workers to be exploited. Oh, okay.
Anyway, coming now to the large farms, we must note, first of all, the following characteristic fact of the utmost importance for the refutation of all apologists. The combination of agriculture with other occupations has diverse and opposite significance for the various categories of farmers. Among the small farmers, it signifies proletarianization and the curtailed independence. For in this category, agriculture is combined with occupations like those of hired laborers, small handicraftsmen, small traders, and so forth. Among the big farmers, it signifies either a rise in the political significance of landed proprietorship through the medium of government service, military service, etc., or the combination of agriculture with forestry and agricultural industries.
Okay, let me interrupt with just like a minute of like history. So so the group known as the I mean, there are many different Cossacks, but like the group known as the Don Cossacks, which like who had like crap loads of land near the Don River, they got their land because the Tsar of Russia needed some mercs to take out Napoleon during the first Napoleon. How do you pronounce that word?
Napoleonic
War.
Napoleonic, like colonic,
yeah, and then they got like crap loads. Like I can't tell you how much. Like they got crap loads, like in the latifundos in the Don region, And so that's how the Don Cossacks became so, I guess, reactionary. So yeah, often if you were one of those high serving, like it was like a positive circle jerk. You would get to be an officer who kind of sits back and does nothing while the grunts go and get themselves killed. And then the king would reward you with like lots of land as a reward for God knows what.
And you become a minor muckety muck in Imperial Russia because you have land.
No. This is in Bruges in Germany.
Oh,
Prussia or Bavaria or no. This is in Baden. Baden was. This was under the Kaiser. No. What's his name? What is his name? His name is Bismarck.
Bismarck. Okay.
I don't know why his name is blanking. But yeah. So yeah, that's what Lenin means by the political significance. Okay.
As we know, the latter phenomenon is one of the most characteristic symptoms of capitalist advance in agriculture. That is why the percentage of farmers who regard independent farming as their principal occupation, who are engaged in farming as masters and not as laborers, sharply increases in size. In the size of the farms.
Sharply increases with the increase in the size of the farms.
Sharply increases with the increase in the size of the farms. 72, 90, and 96%, but drops to 93% in the category of farms of 100 hectares and over.
Because they now have to become cabinet members in the Kaiser's cabinet, kind of like how we have like people who are CEOs of Monsanto becoming the agriculture secretary.
Yeah, people who, the regulatory capture, as they call it, like.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Being the sheriff of your personal. Okay. In this group, 4.2% of the farmers regard office employment under the heading of other occupations as their principal occupation. 0.4% of the farmers regard non-independent work as their principal occupations. Where is here discussed, what is here discussed is not hired laborers, but managers, inspectors, etc. Statistik des Deutschen Reichs B, whatever the citation is. Similarly, we see that the percentage of independent farmers who engage in auxiliary occupations sharply diminishes with the increase in the size of the farms. 26, 25, 15, and 9%, but greatly increases among the farmers possessing 100 hectares and over.
Yep, those are the ones that actually, it's kind of funny because a lot of these a lot of these children of independent farmers in this were okay. So this is the thing that happened. A lot of them thought like would volunteer for military service so that they could get become like an officer and kind of doing that thing and just sit on their horse and then and then after that, they would be get set up in some prestigious job. But unfortunately for a lot of these fail sons, they did not kind of understand what was going to happen in World War I. And some of them got their faces blown off and stuff like that and got real injuries. And they got and then when they came, there was no job waiting because the entire German Empire collapsed. So they got really, really, really bitter and became Nazis. But that's another story.
Okay. I just moved a book away from my computer. Hopefully that makes my internet better.
Okay.
I don't know. All right. Really, really long paragraph. In regards to the number of large farms, 100 hectares and over, and the land area they occupy, the statistics given above indicate a diminution in the share of their total number of farms and the total area arises. Does this imply that large-scale farming is being crowded out by small-scale and middle peasant farming, as Mr. Bulgakov hastens to assume? We think not. And by his angry threats at Kautsky on this point, Mr. Bulgakov, thrusts.
Yeah, thrusts. Yeah.
Angry,
Like
his
that's
angry threats at Kautsky on this point. Mr. Bulgakov merely exposes his inability to refute Kautsky's opinion on the subject. In the first place, the diminution in the proportion of the large farms is extremely small, from 0.47% to 0.5%, i.e., 0.02% of the total of farms, and from 24.43% to 24.088%, i.e., 0.35% of the total area. It is generally known that with the intensification of farming, it is sometimes necessary to make a slight reduction in the area of the farm. And the big farmers lease lots of land remote from the center of the estate in order to secure laborers. We have shown above that the author of the detailed description of the large and small-scale farms in the East in relation to big land ownership, and that he strongly advises the settlement of laborers. Secondly, there can be no talk of the elimination of large-scale by small-scale farming for the reason that data on the size of the farms are not yet adequate for judging the scale of production. The fact that in this respect, large-scale farming has made considerable progress is irrefutably proved by statistics on the use of machinery and on agricultural industries, to be examined in greater detail below, since Mr. Bulgakov gives an astonishingly incorrect interpretation of German statistics on this subject. Again, a thing that if you used it today, you'd wear it out in like a day. Astonishingly incorrect. Fox News, astonishingly incorrect. CNN.
Kamala Harris gives an astonishingly incorrect interpretation on unemployment statistics by like changing the definition of the word unemployment. Okay.
Blah, 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 blah. Where is it?
Thirdly,
in the group of small farmers of 100 hectares and over, a prominent
wait, you just made up the word small. Okay. Thirdly, in a group of farms.
Thirdly, in the group of farms of 100 hectares and over, a prominent place is occupied by latifunda. These are the farms of 1,000 hectares and over. The number of these farms has increased proportionately more than the number of middle peasant farms, namely from 515 to 572, or by 11%, whereas the number of middle peasant farms has increased from 926,000 to 998,000, or by 7.8%. The area of the latifunda has increased by 708,000 acres to 802,000 acres.
Hectares.
Or by, hectares. Yeah, hectares, not an hectare. What, it's like 2-ish acres?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Or by 94,000 hectares. In 1882, latifunda occupied 2.22% of the total land under cultivation. By 1895, they occupied 2.46%. On this point, Mr. Bulgakov, in his work, supplements the groundless objections to Kautsky he made in Nachalo with the following even more groundless generalization. An index of the decline of large-scale farming, he writes, is the increase in the latifunda, the progress of agriculture, and the growth of intensive farming should be accompanied by the splitting up of farms. Mr. Bulgakov unconcernedly goes on to talk about the latifunda degeneration of large-scale farming. With what remarkable logic our scholars reason, since the diminution in the size of the farms at times with the intensification of farming implies an increase in production, therefore, an increase in the number and in the area of the latifunda should, in general, signify a decline.
That makes no sense, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he loves to write people's bad arguments out in explicit terms.
Yeah.
It's fun. But since logic is so bad, why not turn for help to statistics? The source from which Mr. Bulgakov draws his information contains a mass of data on latifunda farming. We present here some of the figures over in some of the
Here, let me read the figures part. Okay.
sure.
We
In
present here some
1895.
of the figures. In 1895, 572 of the largest enterprises occupied an area of 1,159,674 hectares, of which 802,000 hectares were given over to agriculture and 298,000 were covered by forests. A part of these latifundia proprietors were primarily timber merchants and not farmers. Livestock of all kinds is kept by 97.9% of these farmers. Draft animals, i.e., the ones that can save labor by pulling like weight and plowing, by 97.7%. Machines are used by 555 in this group, as we have seen. It is in this group that the maximum number of cases of the use of machines of various type occurs. Steam plows are used by 81%, 81 farms or 14% of the total number of latifundia farms. Livestock is kept as follows: 148,678 head of cattle, 55,591 horses, 703,813 sheep, and 53,543 pigs. 16 of these farms are combined with sugar refineries, 228 with distilleries, 6 with breweries, 16 with starch factories, and 64 with flour mills. The intensification may be judged from the fact that 211 of these farms cultivate sugar beet, 26,000 hectares are devoted for this crop, and 302 potatoes for industrial purpose, i.e. vodka, 21 with 1,822 cows or 87 cows per farm sell milk to the cities, and 204 belong to the Dairy Cooperative Society, 18,273 cows or 89 per farm. A very strange latifundia degeneration indeed.
Let's see. There was some small point that I wanted to. Oh yeah, sugar beets it was like sugar cane before there was sugar cane. It was just like a commodities export production thing.
Okay, got it.
Okay. All right, the next paragraph.
We are now.
Just scrolling. We now pass to the middle peasant farms, 5 to 20 hectares. The proportion they represent of the total farms has increased from 17.6% to 18%, plus 0.4%. And the total area from 28.7 to 29.9, plus 1.2%. Quite naturally, every annihilator of Marxism regards these figures as his trump card. Mr. Bolvikov draws from them the conclusion that large-scale farming is being crowded out by small-scale farming, that there is a tendency towards decentralization, and so on and so forth. We have pointed out above that precisely with respect to the peasantry, unclassified statistics are particularly unsuitable and can more than ever lead to error. It is precisely in this sphere that the processes of the formation of small enterprises and the progress of the peasant bourgeoisie are most likely to conceal proletarianization and impoverishment of the majority. In German agriculture as a whole, we see an undoubted development of large-scale capitalist farming, the growth of latifunda, the increase in the use of machinery, and the development of agricultural industries. On the one hand, and on the other hand, there is still a more undoubted growth of proletarianization and impoverishment, flight to the cities, expanded parcelization of the land, growth in the number of small atonement holdings, increase in auxiliary hired labor, decline in the food consumption of the small peasants, etc. the parcelizations, the chopping up the land in the little tiny bits, and just losing your land to larger farms. So, hence, it would be clearly impossible and hence it would be clearly improbable and impossible that these processes should not be current among the peasantry. Moreover, the detailed statistics definitely indicate these processes and confirm the opinion that data on the size of farms alone are totally inadequate in this case. Hence, Kautsky rightly pointed out, on the basis of the general state of capitalist development of German agriculture, the incorrectness of drawing from those statistics the conclusion that small-scale production was gaining over large-scale production.
I know this sounds so stupid now. It's like Monsanto owns everything, so of course, I can't believe there were serious academics back then. But we have Paul Krugman, so we can't complain, right?
Mr. Paul Krugmanov, Krugnikov, something like that.
Okay, but and oh my God, I think everything that comes out of Harvard, Chicago, it doesn't matter. Like any economics department in the US is just like gibberish multiplied by more gibberish.
Yeah, they teach them a wrong version of something that someone else wrote based on another wrong version of something. And then you have, you talk about the citations that lead back to a singularity that's usually some Nazi or whatever.
Exactly. It's like, like I said,
he was just a principled German critic of Marxism in the 1940s when, never mind, let's not talk about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always the same shit. Okay. Anyway, next paragraph. We have, however, direct data abundantly proving that the increase in the number of middle peasant farms indicates an increase in poverty and not in wealth and prosperity. We refer to the very data on draft animals, which Mr. Bulgakov utilized just so clumsily in Nachalo and in his book. If this required further proof, wrote Mr. Bulgakov, with reference to his assertions that medium farming was progressing and large-scale farming was declining, then to the indices of the amount of labor power, we could add the indices of the number of draft animals. Here's an eloquent table.
That we merely just added the total, and the answer is negative 1065. Okay.
Yeah. So, wow, there's 1,000 fewer draft animals out of a total of 300,000. That's so conclusive. It's almost like the mechanization of agriculture was occurring during this precise period.
Exactly.
There's an infinite number of explanations for this.
Yeah.
The number of farms with draft animals declined among the large as well as the small farms and increased only among the medium.
Oh my God, that's so obvious. So the small farmers were losing that one horse they had, and the large farms were using tractors or seedling machines.
Farms were using more mechanized equipment.
And then then the medium farms were the ones that were kind of left with the draft animals. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, they were asset stripping the small farmers for their horses.
Yeah.
And cows and oxen. Whatever. Mr. Bulgakov could be pardoned for having, in a hurriedly written magazine article, erred in arriving at a conclusion diametrically opposed to the one the statistics on draft animals logically lead to. But our strict scientist repeated this error in his investigation, volume 2, page 127, where, moreover, he used the figures of plus 30,407 and minus 360 as applying to the number of animals, whereas they apply to the number of farms using draft animals. But that, of course, is a minor point.
This is what I call when Lenin's this is a minor point, but this is Lenin being extra petty. Yeah. I love it when he's petty.
It's you're also wrong in a way that I don't even need to point out to undermine your argument. But why not? Let's.
And then I love it. And then he's uses the socialist we, and he says, let's not dwell on these details.
Yeah.
Okay.
We ask our strict scientist, who talks so boldly of the decline of large-scale farming, What is the significance of the increase of 30,000 in the number of middle peasant farms with draft animals when the total number of middle peasant farms increased by 72,000? Is it not clear that from this percentage of middle peasant farmers with draft animals is declining? This being the case, should not Mr. Bulgakov have ascertained what percentage of farms in the various categories kept draft animals in 1882 and in 1895? The more so, since the data are given on the very page and in the very table from which he took the absolute figures. So he just admitted the statistics because they directly undermine what he's saying.
Yeah. Okay. So then
you see a decrease in the percentage of farm animals in all categories.
Okay. So thus, the farms with draft animals diminished on average by over 2%, but the reduction was above average among the small and middle farm and below the average among the large farm. Moreover, it must not be forgotten, it is precisely on the large farms that animal power is frequently displaced by mechanical power in the form of machines of various kinds, including steam-driven machines, or Statistik des Deutschen Reichs. Okay, that's what Lenin was. Therefore, if in the group of large farms of over 100 hectares and over, the number of draft animals diminished by 360, and if at the same time the number of steam plows increased by 615, 710 in 1882 and 1,325 in 1895, it is clear that taken as a whole, large-scale farming has not lost, but has benefited thereby. Consequently, we come to the conclusion that the only group of German farms who have undoubtedly improved their conditions for farming with respect to the use of animals for field work or substitution of steam power for animals are the big farmers. Farmers with farms of over 1,000 hectares and over. In all the remaining group, the conditions of the farms have deteriorated, and they have deteriorated most in the group of middle peasant farms, in which the percentage of farms using draft animals has diminished the most. The difference in the percentage of large farms of 100 hectares and over and medium farms 5 to 20 hectares with draft animals was formerly less than 3%, 99.42 and 96.56. The difference now is more than 5%.
Okay. This conclusion is still more strongly confirmed by the data on the types of draft animals used. The smaller the farm, the weaker the types. A relatively smaller number of oxen and horses and a larger number of cows, which are much weaker, are used for field work. The following data show the situation in this respect for the years 1882 and 1895. For 100 farms using draft animals, the data are.
Yeah, and then we'll show this graph. Okay, well, now read the.
So he has cows and then superior draft animals. Cows and then cows along with horses and all.
Oh, ignore the table. Now go underneath.
Yeah, you'll put that in later. We see a general deterioration in the kind of draft animals used. For the reason indicated, the small settlement farms are not taken into account. The greatest deterioration occurring in the group of middle peasant farms. In that group, of the total number of farms possessing draft animals, the percentage of those compelled to use cows as well as other animals, and of those with draft animals which have to use cows for field work, which was, of course, I'm sorry, I'm just going to read that whole sentence again. At the present time, more than 1/3 of middle peasant farms with draft animals have to use cows for field work, which of course leads to poorer tilling, consequently to a drop in the crop yield, as well as to a lower milk yield, while more than 1/5 use only cows for field work. if
So
we
they're
take
getting
the
when you
number
use
of
hold on when you use cows for
animals-
field work, you like because you need like kind of like a fat cow to get a lot of milk, like a pampered, frequently pregnant getting cow. But
Yeah.
then if you're going to use it for field work, then it's not going to produce milk. So you're getting less crops and you can sell less milk. So you're getting screwed doubly.
Yeah, you're eating your own lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because obviously the caloric input that the cow needs to make the milk is whatever it would be doing tilling your field versus so you're just going to get either less milk or it's whatever.
You know what's really funny? It's how these right wingers like make fun of soy boys, and I'm like, how much estrogen do you think comes from like the breast of this extremely large 1 ton animal? It's like not even comparable to whatever's in soy.
Yeah.
Like they don't seem
soy actually boosts testosterone slightly.
Yeah, but if they think soy has estrogen, you look at a cow.
I'm a vegetarian. Yeah, look at milk. Like, stop drinking milk, you weirdos, if you don't want to have estrogen and be a shower bar.
Yeah, because like if you can look at a cow, that female cow has like more estrogen, like than you can ever imagine in your lifetime.
Yeah, there were like men growing like gynecomastia tissue, like male breast tissue, as a result of drinking RBGH milk, which is the recombinant hormone that they used to inject cows with, so they wouldn't. Oh, it's a recombinant hormone that they would inject cows with, so they wouldn't have to be pregnant to give milk. Which, I mean, honestly, that sounds like a kind of a cool thing until you realize that milk with, RGBH in it, RBGH, recombinant bovine growth hormone, like when you give it to humans, can cause a bunch of bad things to happen.
Okay.
It was a cool idea.
Okay, got it.
Cows and then abort them just to have them produce milk or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. Agriculture is so disgusting. All right. If we take the number of animals used for field work, we shall find in all groups, except for the small installment farms, an increase in the number of cows. The number of horses and oxen has changed as follows.
Okay.
We see basically a marked increase in the 100 or over, and slight increase in under 2, and everything else drops.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, those are in thousands, not percentages.
Okay, go on.
Okay. With the exception of small installment farms, an increase in the number of draft animals proper is seen only among the big farmers. Consequently, the general conclusion to be drawn from the changes in farming conditions with regard to the animal and mechanical power employed for field work is as follows. Improvement only among the big farmers, deterioration among the rest, the greatest deterioration among the middle peasant farms. The statistics for 1895 enable us to divide the middle peasant farm group into 2 subgroups, with 5 to 10 acres and
hectares.
I don't know why my brain does that. I see the word hectares and I still say acres. With 5 to 10 hectares and with 10 to 20 hectares, respectively. These are the 2 groups. As was to be expected in the first subgroup, which has by far the greater number of farms, farming conditions, insofar as they affect the use of draft animals, are incomparably worse than in the second. Of the total of 606,000 owners of 5 to 10 hectares, 90.5% possess draft animals. Of the 393,000 10 to 20 hectares, 95.8% have draft animals. And of this number, 46.3% use cows for field work, 17.9% in the 10 to 20 hectare group. So that's a 30% difference.
Okay. But by the way, just so you know, when you look at the same statistics for Russia, this group tends to have very little cows because the serf, because the people are the cows. It's like. Actually, one day we're gonna have to compare the draft animals used in the U.S. in 1910 versus even for people even amongst the different races in the U.S. in the South. Actually, Lenin does this and just compare that with Russia, and you'll see that it was okay. Go on.
Okay, so that was the statistics of 1895. All right, blah, 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 blah. Let me just read that paragraph again. Oh no, wait! I basically finished it. All right. The statistics for 1895 enable us to divide the middle peasant farms into two subgroups, with 5 to 10 hectares and with 10 to 20 hectares, respectively. As was to be expected in the first subgroup, which has by far the greater number of farms, farming conditions, insofar as they affect the use of draft animals, are incomparably worse than in the second. Of the total of 606,000 owners of 5 to 10 hectares, 90.5% possess draft animals. Of the 393,000 with 10 to 20 hectares, 95.8%. And of this number, 46.3% use cows for field work. Only 17.9% in the 10 to 20 hectare group use cows for field work. The number using cows amounts to 41.3%, 4.2% in the 10 to 20 hectare group. It turns out that precisely the 5 to 10 hectare group, the one most poorly equipped with draft animals, shows the greatest increase from 1882 to 1895, both in the number of farms and in area. The relevant figures follow. So the increase in area for the two categories of farms, total area, and cultivated area. So, do you see a visual trend there?
Eventually, I will see a visual trend.
Okay, well, yeah, you can put that in later.
Yeah.
Anyway, 2 paragraphs left. In the 10 to 20 hectare group, the increase in the number of farms is quite insignificant. The proportion of the total area even diminished, while the proportion of the cultivated area increased to a much lesser extent than that of the farms in the 5 to 10 hectare group. Consequently, the increase in the middle peasant farm group is accounted for mainly, and partly even exclusively, by the 5 to 10 hectare group, the very group in which farming conditions with regard to the use of draft animals are particularly bad. Thus, we see that the statistics irrefutably reveal the true significance of the notorious increase in the number of middle peasant farms. It is not an increase in prosperity, but an increase in poverty. Not the progress of small farming, but its degradation. If the conditions of farming have deteriorated most among the middle peasant farmers, and if these farms have been obliged to resort most extensively to the use of cows for fieldwork, then on the basis of this aspect of farming alone, one of the most important aspects of farming as a whole, it is not only our right, but our duty to draw the conclusions regarding all other aspects of farming. If the number of horseless farms, to use a term familiar to the Russian reader and one quite applicable to the present case, has increased, if there is deterioration of the type of draft animal used, there cannot be the slightest doubt that the general maintenance of the animals and the treatment of the soil, as well as the food and the living conditions of the farm, deteriorated. For in peasant farming, as all know, the harder the animals are worked and the worse they are fed, the harder the peasant works and the worse he is fed, and vice versa. The conclusions we drew from Klowaki's detailed study are fully confirmed by the mass data on all small peasant farms in Germany.
Yeah. Actually, maybe we should look up the U.S. eventually. Like, I can't do it today because my brain's all fried. But would you be able to look up because I know
data for the.
I know how, like, I hear these horror stories about how these individual farmers, like, have to, like, I don't know, do something weird with chickens and sell it to, like, some, like, Archer Daniel Midland or something. I've seen the
Archer Daniels Midland? What the fuck? Why are they buying chickens?
ADM? They're the biggest ones, right?
I thought they were a weapons manufacturer.
No. ADM is the biggest farm owner in the world.
Okay.
Archer Daniel Midland. Yeah. Okay. I think you may be confused with AMD, who's a chip manufacturer, but who knows?
Maybe they have their hands in the military-industrial complex.
No, I don't think so.
Right, I'm going to Google that shit real quick.
They were in a cartel, like they had a big farm cartel. I don't know how to explain it. They were like the cornflakes cartel.
Archer, okay, Google. Archer, ADO, blah, 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 blah. Commodities Trading Corporation.
Multinational food processing.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
Of course, you usually are.
But actually, yeah, we'll do that together another day. Hopefully, like in a few weeks, when hopefully we can get you on again.
Okay.
Did we miss anything important? Because I'm not prepared for the dairy thing because I don't know anything, so I need to like read that first and do some research. Like I can't put BS on the fly for the dairy.
What is that like the next chapter? Or?
Yeah.
The last chapter of the dairy is on dairy. So,
but I can't BS on the fly for that one. Okay.
Do you think he brings up margarine in the dairy one?
Probably. Oh, I know. The best ones are the letters. Okay. I'll find a letter where he's like obsessing over something really stupid. Letter is not to his family, but like letters to this, like his letters are really weird and sometimes like obsessing over something so dumb.
Like what?
Like there was this one. Okay, so there was this one letter he sent to. Have we done the station master's table letter yet, Janet?
I don't see it on the list.
Okay, let me send you. Okay, let me send you. It's just so ridiculous. It's like, okay, I'll find it. Okay, I can't find it in English, but I can find this in Russian, and I'll just quickly explain what he says. This is a telegram to VG Ivanov of the Caucasus. He is in let's see, where in the Caucasus? He is in a town called Birulievlo. It is in the Razan Urals. And so he's the head of he has some minor role. Okay. We have received, this is Lenin writing to some guy in the middle of the Caucasus, where the city doesn't quite have the name. So they have to say I think the town's name is Virulievo, but they have to kind of explain between which mountain it's in or something stupid like this.
It's like a really rural ass town.
It's in the middle of nowhere, and Lenin's the leader of the country. Okay, we have received a complaint that you requisitioned writing utensils, including the station master's table. Return the items immediately and send your explanations by telegram.
What the fuck? Is he that much of a busybody?
I mean, Lenin had.
I might be the leader of the USSR, but you better stop fucking with that table. I'm gonna come up there. Oh, you don't want me to? I will.
Well,
wait a second, Edge. Didn't Putin do something with a pen or something?
No, but that's for Oleg Deripaska. So what happened was that he got so he got all.
Oh yeah, he shamed that dude on TV. That was
yeah. That's for Oleg Deripaska because he got all these billionaires and they were contemplating shutting down a factory because it was not profitable. Yeah. And Putin's like, nope, this ain't gonna happen here. And he's got
sign this document on television. I'm gonna punk you in front of the whole country.
Yeah. I think that you will not shut down this factory. Otherwise, you guys are this factory is going to be running one way or another with or without you. Yeah. And then all of them.
Shit.
Yeah. And then Oleg at the end came and Putin's like, Oleg, come here. Did you sign it? And he signs it like a child. And then at the end, he's like, give me back my pen. So that was like an alpha move. This is Lenin just losing, not being able to, impulsivity, not being able to, it's like the ADHD thing where you can't figure out what's important. even in the middle of a world war, but whatever.
You just fixate on like some small thing.
Yeah. This is Lenin fixating on some small thing.
So you want to see the books that I'm reading right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, it's Super Imperialism by Michael Hudson.
Oh, he's stealing Michael Parenti's. No. That's Super Patriotism.
Yeah, which is also really good and which everybody should read.
But he's a Trot.
I don't know. I mean, like he doesn't say Trotsky in this book. Like it's not.
I know, but okay.
Yeah, Trotsky was a terror bomber and
no, then that's not that. Like, okay, the Trots and they have this like weird error in thinking where they. But whatever. How about this?
Use him. He really sucked that the Chinese government wouldn't use him as like a currency policy advisor.
I mean, do they, or are they kind of cultivating somebody who's like?
No, he works at Peking University, and like this entire like the chapter that he added to this book is just about how China avoided the currency zone traps that the U.S. used to destroy the empire of England.
Okay. And what are the other books?
It's really good. I know that you just like you. Yeah, I'll never convince you to read a Trot. I know. So
I will probably. Okay.
Lenin's.
I totally approve of that, and I love that cover.
Yeah, this is the international whatever it is. Oh no, sorry. This is a Penguin book. Yeah, but you can get these for like $6. Totally worth it.
I approve.
Yeah, and it's great. It'll help you. I mean, he just starts out with Monopoly and just.
I know it's so fantastic. Good. Yeah, funny too. And then there's just a right amount of making fun of Trotsky. Kautsky. I said it's just the right amount of making fun of Kautsky too in that once in a while.
Yeah. And the other one that I'm reading is Capital and Imperialism by Utsa and Prabhat Patnaik.
Yeah, I should reread it because I've been told to have them on, but I haven't read their book. So I can't really have them on if I haven't read their book. So I can ask intelligent questions. So eventually I'll get it. But right now, like I'm still 3 books behind. I am reading this book by Dango Sala called about this. It's called the CFA's Frank, which is about the CFA zone in France, like how France like monopolizes the currency of these like 14 African countries. That's basically what this one is about too. Oh, okay.
The whole world is the U.S.'s currency zone underling, like.
Okay, so and then the other one I'm reading is called the British Museum. It's by Dan Hicks, so I can interview him. The thing is that this is what happens. I'm like reading, and then you're like, they took that door from that temple in India. God damn it!
Yeah, you just get rage,
and then I have to put it down, and then I come back to it and then I'm like, not only, and then he goes on to this other thing he sees at the British Museum, and I'm like, oh, that's an entire diamond, blah, blah, blah. And then
the wealth of nations pilfered by the British Museum.
Yeah. So that's why it's taking a long time. So those are the And you had something about opium.
Yeah, The Politics of Heroin, which is great. It's like
who wrote it?
He's Alfred McCoy, and he's a like kind of a liberal, but he's a really good historian. He's a like his academic work, like his main thrust is on the history of the Philippines.
Oh, okay. Well, liberals can sometimes be
so like there's a like longer. Go ahead.
Like I said, many liberals can be good historians. Like. I don't know if you checked out our latest piece. Matt wrote it. It's called Facts, Fascism, and something else. Fascism, Fact, something like that. It's actually a more dissing Jacobin's review of this book, where this woman wrote a book about like learning from Germany, and she compares how East Germany dealt with denazification versus West Germany, and her conclusions are actually pretty accurate. Like. And she even like spends more time chastising the Western press for just like totally lying about East Germany. But Jacobin wrote this stupid article where they changed the word, like did this. So liberals sometimes can't avoid it if reality just like boom hits them on their face.
I mean, this guy, like he's actually kind of a badass. Like the CIA was trying to murder him with helicopters. Like
awesome.
The introduction to this book is online and it's 15 pages and it reads like a James Bond script, but if the guy wasn't an imperialist or something. Like he infiltrates the operations, just like fucking walks into them, like lies his way in, and like then the CIA finds out and they start trying to kill him with a helicopter. He gets the fuck out of there and he like goes to France and he like confronts like the French narcotics traffickers who are selling the CIA's heroin for them, and then they get really mad at him and he gets like double exposed, and then like the
How
CIA
did he live to write the book?
He was just he ran really fast and he got some of the tribesmen to protect him as bodyguards, and like that's what, if a liberal like has a good motivation to do something, they can produce like a masterpiece like this, which is in its 3rd edition and details like the development of like the entire colonial opium trade, and then goes into the history after World War II. It talks about China and the KMT and their involvement post World War II and funding through Central Intelligence. It talks through heroin. It talks about the traffic through
Burma,
the Golden Triangle. Like there is one thing that's kind of annoying about this, and that it assumes that you know like what the countries are and when. So if he says Indochina, you're like,
that's Vietnam.
Like, if I had to go on the internet and look a lot of that stuff up, but you know, it's great. It'll teach you about China. It'll teach you about Southeast Asia. It'll teach you about the history of like drug politics, and it's fucking awesome. I recommend this to anyone.
Oh, okay. I'll add that to my list after the British Museum. I know I can get it done this year so that we can have like a great interview. Anyways.
Oh, if you did that, I would flip as shit. I'll give you $50 if you can interview Alfred McCoy.
Is he alive?
I would love to see that.
Is he alive?
Oh yeah, he's alive and he does interviews regularly. He goes on Scott Horton's show a lot, and I know.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. I can totally get him then. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll have to first read the book, but okay. So, anyways,
it's a great.
Okay, so that's what you were reading. Okay, so join us again. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to now not be live. No. I'm going to go back to being live, and I guess I'll be reading Nadezhda Remembers or Reminisces. So thanks again for coming, Yuri, and I guess I'll see you next week. Hi, everyone. My hair's all messed up, and yeah, but oddly enough, just because I took the photograph from last week, I remember where we were. So since I'm a little tired, I'm just going to start reading. And like I said, how long I read is a direct function of how many super chats I get. So if you want it to last longer, then I'm feeling like when I feel sleepy, more super chats. Okay, so let's get started. In the spring, Ilyich made the acquaintance of his old Narodopravets revolution, Natanson and his wife. Natanson was a splendid organizer of the old type. And what about his wife? He knew lots of people and was very good at sizing up a man and could tell what he was capable of and what job he was best suited for. What struck Vladimir Ilyich about him was the fact that he was perfectly familiar with personnel of both his own and our Social Democratic organization. which he knew better than many of our own Central Committee members. Natanson lived in Baku and knew Krasin, Pastalovsky, and others. Vladimir Ilyich thought Natanson could be persuaded into becoming a social democrat. He was very close to the social democratic standpoint. Oh, thank you, Norville Rogers. Okay, like I said, the function of how long I read really depends on how much I get with super chats. Okay. I forgot where I was. We heard afterwards that the old revolutionary had sobbed when, for the first time in his life, he had seen an imposing demonstration in Baku. On one point, Vladimir Ilyich and he could not see eye to eye. Natanson disagreed with the social democratic approach of wooing the peasantry. The wooing of Natanson lasted a fortnight. Natanson was familiar even on intimate terms with Plekhanov. Vladimir Ilyich fell into conversation with him about our party affairs and our split with the Mensheviks. Natanson offered to talk things over with Plekhanov. He came away with Plekhanov in a state of perplexity. We would have to compromise, he said. The romance with Natanson was broken off. Vladimir Ilyich was annoyed with himself after having discussed social democratic affairs with a man of another party who had acted as a sort of a go-between. He was annoyed with Natanson as well as himself. Meanwhile, in Russia, the Central Committee was pursuing a double-faced conciliatory policy, where the local committees backed the Bolsheviks. It was... Oh, thank you. Okay. That's a good equation. I like it. F of x is equal to K times dollar plus C. Okay, thank you. That's a great equation. For all t greater than 0, correct. Meanwhile, in Russia, the protest against the July declaration of the Central Committee. This was the name given to the resolution adopted by the conciliatory section of the Central Committee, which was already pursuing a Menshevik policy, and by the Mensheviks in Lenin's absence. The resolution had 26 clauses, but only 10 of them were published in number 72 of Iskra on August 25, 1904. The editorial replied to Lenin, who had protested against the party being kept in ignorance of decisions of its leading organ. Plekhanov argued that the local committees need not know all the details about the leaders' differences. To try to make the proletariat a judge in the innumerable disputes arising between the circles would mean leaning all the worst forms of pseudo-democratism. One of the clauses of this resolution ran, the Central Committee is emphatically opposed to convening a special Congress at the present time and any agitation in favor of the Congress. Nadezhda. Okay. So basically they're trying to do a coup, I guess, which prevented him from defending the point of view and communicating with Russia. Vladimir Ilyich resigned from the Central Committee, and the Bolshevik group numbering 22 passed a resolution calling for the Third Congress, which is what all the local committees in Russia wanted to do. And Vladimir Ilyich was principled and did not want to keep secrets from the people. He wanted a real dictatorship of the proletariat, as opposed to Plekhanov. Oh, by the way, that's just my editorial. Vladimir Ilyich and I took our rucksacks and went out in the mountains, hiking in the mountains for a month. Beast joined us, but gave it up, saying, "You people like to go to places where there isn't even a living cat. I must have human society." Indeed, we always chose the loneliest trails that led into the wilds away from any people. We tramped about for a month, not knowing today where we would be tomorrow. After a weary day, we would throw ourselves on our beds, dead tired, and fall asleep instantaneously. We had very little money and lived mostly on cold food such as eggs and cheese and washed down with wine or water from a spring. We rarely had a proper dinner. At one little inn patronized by the Social Democrats, a worker gave us a good tip. Don't dine with the tourists, but with the coachmen, chauffeurs, and the laborers. It's twice as cheap and more filling. We took this advice. The civil servants and shopkeepers who aped the bourgeoisie would sooner stop going out altogether than to sit at the same table with the servant. The middle-class snobbery is very widespread in Europe. They talk a lot about democracy there, but to sit down at the same table with the servants, not at home but in a smart hotel, is more than any snob trying to make his way in the world can stomach. It gave Vladimir Ilyich special pleasure, therefore, to sit down in the common room to have his meal. He ate there with a keener relish and was full of praise for the cheap but satisfying food. After that, we would sling on our rucksacks and continue our way. Rucksacks were pretty heavy. Vladimir Ilyich had a fat French dictionary in his, while I had in mine a no less heavy French book which I had just received for translation. Neither the dictionary nor the trip, however, had been once opened during our trip. It was not at dictionaries we looked, but at snow-capped everlasting mountains and at blue lakes and turbulent waterfalls. A month of this restored Vladimir Ilyich's nerves to normal. It was as if he had bathed in a mountain stream and washed off the cobwebs of sordid intrigue. We spent August with Bogdanov, Alminsky, and Pervukhin in a remote village by the shore of Lac de Brie. The plan of work was arranged with Bogdanov, who proposed enlisting the cooperation of Lunacharsky, Stepanov, and Bazarov. Plans were, and actually Lenin seems to troll Bazarov and Lunacharsky in Imperio, and Bogdanov, of course, in Imperial Materialism, but we'll figure that out later. Plans were made to publish our own organs abroad and develop agitation for Congress in Russia. Ilyich became his cheerful self again. His return from a visit to the Bogdanovs in the evening was always announced by a furious barking from the chained dog outside, whom he teased in passing. We went back to Geneva in autumn and moved from the suburbs nearer to the center. Vladimir Ilyich joined the Société de Lecture, where there was a vast library and excellent facilities for work. They received lots of newspapers and magazines there in French, German, and English, and it was a very convenient place to study in. The members of the society, for the most part old professors, seldom visited the library, and Ilyich had a room all to himself there where he could write, pace up and down, think over his article, take down any book he wanted to from the shelves. He could rest assured that no Russian comrade would have come there started telling him about the Mensheviks having said this or playing that dirty trick in such and such place. And he could think there without his thoughts diverted, ADHD, and there was plenty to think about. Russia had started the Japanese War, which glaringly revealed all the rottenness of the Tsarist monarchy. Not only the Bolsheviks, but the Mensheviks and even liberals were defeatists in this war. A storm of popular protest was rising. The working class movement entered a new phase of mass politics. News of mass public meetings held in defiance of the police and direct clashes between the police and the workers reached us even more often. In the face of growing mass revolutionary movements, petty factional squabbles did not worry us as much as it recently had. These squabbles, though, sometimes assumed ugly forms. The Bolshevik Vasiliev, for instance, arrived from the Caucasus and wanted to make a report on the situation in Russia. At the opening meeting, however, the Mensheviks demanded that the election presiding committee, although it was just an ordinary report which any party member could come and hear, not an organizational meeting. Mensheviks tried to turn every report lecture into an electoral fight, hoping to stop the mouth of the Bolsheviks by democratic means. Things very nearly came to a hand-to-hand scuffle over the insurance fund. During the uproar, Bogdanov's wife Natalia had her mantle torn and someone got knocked out. But now it did not affect us half as much as it used to. All our thoughts were in Russia. One felt a tremendous responsibility in the face of the workers' movement that was going out there in St. Petersburg, Moscow, Odessa, and all the other places. All parties, liberal, socialist, revolutionaries, began to show themselves in their true colors. The Mensheviks, too, showed their real faces. It became clear now what divided the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. Vladimir Ilyich had implicit faith in the proletariat's class instincts, creative powers, and the historic mission. This faith had not come suddenly to Vladimir Ilyich, but had been hammered out during the years when he had studied and pondered Marx's theory of class struggle, and when he had studied Russian realities and learned the fighting ideas of the old revolutionaries to offset the heroism of the solitary fighter by the strength of the heroism of the class struggle. Thank you so much, Mr. Difficile. This actually reminds me of my last interview with Senator Mike Gravel, because he kind of had an idea of having a Soviet, but didn't use the word Soviet. And then he said, well, instead of, like, he's like, forget about Congress. Like, he kind of said that we need to forget about Congress, and the only way to have an anti-war is to actually like have the people come together and write their own constitution and like set up a parallel government. And he said like he had faith in the American people, and that was way more likely to get it done. So I don't know why I thought about this, but this reminds me of that. And the reason why Lenin had faith in the proletariat and the peasantry and not the liberals is because the liberals like totally was not there for his mother when she needed to go late at night on a horse carriage for like 6 hours or something. Nobody accompanied her. But anyways, I don't know why it reminded me of that. But yeah, check out our last interview before it was about 6 months before he died. So check that out, and yeah. It was not blind faith in an unknown force, but a deep-rooted belief in the strength of the proletariat and its tremendous role in the cause of the working class emancipation. A belief founded on profound knowledge and the thorough study of the facts of life. His work among the St. Petersburg proletariat had helped to identify his faith in the power of the working class with real live people. At the end of December, the Bolshevik newspaper Vyperyod forward. Nazad means backwards. Vyperyod nazad. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, began to appear. The editorial board had Ilyich, Olminsky, and Orlovsky, whose real name is Vorovsky, I think, on it. Soon after, Lunacharsky arrived to lend a hand. His impassioned articles were consonant with the Bolshevik mood at the time. The revolutionary movement in Russia was growing, and it grew with our correspondence with Russia. It soon reached a volume of 300 letters a month, which was an enormous figure for those days. And what rich material it provided Ilyich with. He knew how to read the workers' letter. I remember one quarry worker's letter in Odessa. How do you pronounce this? I don't even care. Okay. It was a collective letter written in several uncultivated hands without subjects, predicates, and commas, but full of inexhaustible energy. I want this letter. I have to find it. There, it has to. I hope it still exists. Okay, the letter was. Okay. Stop. A readiness to fight to the victorious end. A letter that was colorful in every word, naive, but unshakable in its conviction. I do not remember what it was about, but I remember how it looked, the paper and the watery ink. Eliot read that letter over and over again, paced up and down in deep thought. Not for nothing had the quarry workers of Odessa taken such great. They probably had to learn how to write and read. Oh my God! They had to understand. They had written to the right man, the one who could understand them the best. That's such. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to find this letter, even if it's in Odessa. Wait, no. Where would this letter be? I'm gonna have to find this letter, and I don't know how I'm gonna find it. I hope it's still around. It has to be, unless it got destroyed. What if it survived the fall of the Soviet Union, but the fascists in Ukraine destroyed it? Where would it be? I'm gonna have to really figure this out.
I think there should be a copy somewhere because they copied everything back then.
Okay.
So it just depends on where you look.
Okay, so Geneva, Switzerland would be the easiest to look. That I could probably do Monday, just call them up. The hardest would be Odessa. The second easiest would be Russia. So hopefully it's either in Geneva, Russia, or I hope it's not in Odessa. Oh, it's going to be a pain in it if it's in Odessa. But I'll find it. I'll see if I can find it. A few days after this letter, we received one from Tanya, a young Odessa propagandist, who gave faithful and detailed report of a meeting of Odessa artisans. Ilyich read that letter too and sat down at once to answer Tanya. Thank you for your letter. Write more often. We are tremendously interested in letters describing ordinary workaday activities. We get so few of them. Worse luck. In almost every letter, Ilyich asked the comrades in Russia to give us more contacts. The strength of a revolutionary organization is in the number of contacts, he wrote to Gusiev, I think, and asked him to put the Bolshevik center abroad in touch with the youth. Some of us have a kind of idiotic Philistine Ablamov-like fear of the youth, he wrote. Ilyich wrote to Alexei Preobrazhensky about an old Samara friend who was then living in the country and asking him to put him in touch with the peasants. He asked St. Petersburg comrades to forward original workers' letters to the center abroad, not just extracts or resumes. These letters told Ilyich more clearly than anything else that the revolution was drawing near, rising. 1905 was on the threshold. And that's the end of the chapter. This is so adorable. This is like the adorablest of the adorable. This is so adorable. Okay, I'm going to take a. Thank you so much. Yes, I can definitely do a Russian invasion debunk stream specifically dedicated to it. I'll just have to think about when. This week I will definitely do it. Okay, so now the new tactic is to take a picture and then send it to Janet, so then we know where we are instead of me writing weird crap in the book. Now I just WhatsApped it to Janet, so we know where we are. And with that, we'll start the next chapter next week. And Smrti Fascismo, Svoboda Narodu, and hopefully we can recreate the Soviet Union one day.